I get this question every day. And like I said, I stole this from Comics League, Jared and Claudia. Yeah, I stole your shit. I stole your shit, Jared. And guess what? I'll be back to steal more. So you're basically producing the show for me. Then again, like I said, you guys have stolen plenty of mine. But they were having a conversation the other day. What's the best comics to get into for a new collector? And that conversation, I enjoyed the show. But like I said, I was in their chat and I had a different perspective from it because I'm selling them and I get them all when they come in. When you're talking about getting someone in the comics, there's a lot of qualifying questions you have to ask when they come through the door. What inspired you to start this journey? What got you into this, or what's getting you into it like that? So the answer to that question is probably going to be one of the most important ones because it's going to allow you to go to somewhere in the store or on the shelf to where it can connect. If they've come in and they for instance, they've come in like today, like us, we're watching Daredevil, right? We're watching Daredevil season 1. And I showed you guys this afternoon, for those of you guys who are watching this is one of the things I'm going to get them. Because at the core of what the Netflix show is, Daredevil, that version of Daredevil is highly influenced by Frank Miller and Klaus Jansen's versions. Frank Miller started in 158 and he went all the way up to, I think, 191. And then he came back and did another strength, which is equally important. So I'm going to get him this. Now, why do I have a trade paperback? Because, yeah, we can get the issues. Another question that is attached to this is how far do you want to go? How high end do you want to start? Is this for readability? Is this because you enjoyed that story you saw on TV? Or do you want to get something that is going to have a collector's value? So if it's going to be a collector's value type of thing, then I'm going to get them the actual issues that came with this. The actual issues themselves. This goes all the way up to from 173 all the way up to 184. This is volume 2 of this. I'm going to get them those because those issues, 80s comics, they retain their value. If they're just getting in it for the story and you get the sense that if they like the story, they will go on to the actual issues, then you start them with something like this. And the reason, and it goes on and on. You can go through any of the music or movie type situations or show type situations. Generally, some of them have some sort of connection, even if it's not one-to-one, some type of connection to the IP that they were on with. So if they're coming in looking for TV shows, things like that, then you get them something like this that it was based on and inspired, and you let them go from there. Now, if it is not a TV show, if it is not a cartoon, if they just have a general understanding of the characters and they're coming in, obviously every man, woman, and child on earth is going to know who Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, and all those are. There are a whole bunch of other characters in comics, obviously, but those are going to be the ones that is the most recognizable. That's an automatic bridge to somebody who comes to the door. Now, if they're coming in, they want a good starting point to start reading and get familiarized to the comic level of these characters, then you get them something like this. And we've featured this before. This is DC New Frontier. Once again, if they're just getting on and they want to get the story and want to get as much story as possible for the best value, you're going to get them a trade paperback. Even though these comics are not very expensive, for the collector, if you got them in front of you for 10 minutes, this is the easiest way to get them started. Why you want to do this? Why these are things like that can get them into comics from any direction? These are called what I call unassociated stories. Meaning they are not an issue after issue story. Like, you don't have to jump in and you're in Detective Comics 1070. And if you've missed the previous issues, you've missed the story. These are basic self-contained story arcs that have the basic familiarity of the character. You could go from DC New Frontiers or a book like this, and you could go on and start collecting Green Lantern with a basic understanding on this. You could go on and start collecting Superman with a basic understanding of what Superman is, Wonder Woman, and so on. Obviously, there are other stories and things that go into deep drama and deep depth of these stories like this. But if you are familiar with these characters, but you haven't read comics yet, this gives you a basic understanding and basic familiarization. You're going to know who Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern is. You're going to know who the Flash is. Now, there's a lot of other stuff that fill in the blanks, but now you're not walking into a room without any light. You have a basic understanding. This book with Darwin Cook, Dave Stewart, it gives you the enough basic understanding, Martian Manhunter, Batman, to where you can go from there. Now when you come back to me and, tell me what you got from this and, if you liked it or not, now we start, what's your favorite, your second tier of qualifying questions is when your customer comes back. What did you like most about this? What was a character you liked? And then we go there. But this gives you something to jump into without having to decide whether you want to jump into where do I jump into Action Comics? It's been around longer than electricity, basically. I mean, you're talking about a book that started in 1938 and has had so many different interpretations of Superman. Start them out with a basic one. And then when they start asking those secondary qualifying questions, then you turn them to, different parts, other series. But this basic understanding. Now, if they are coming back into comics, and still you have things like now we don't need. Here's another one, by the way. That's what I consider to be a disassociated story. It's Batman. It's the basic premise of what Batman is. An older Batman, but it's still Batman. Nothing says Batman like the Dark Knight. You have the Dark Knight. You could read this, and then the premise of the story is a future alternate story. You could read this, but you have a basic understanding, basic premise of what Batman is. You also have to take into consideration the genres that your customer, your brand new is coming into. What do they watch the most? Do they watch a lot of martial arts stuff? Do they watch a lot of detective stuff? Do they watch a lot of just pure action stuff? Are they a Statham fan? Because that kind of stuff, even though it doesn't have anything to do with comic books per se, it's indicative of the type of entertainment that they are receptive to, and you can find a comic for that. Another one that gives you the basic understanding, disassociated story, Kingdome Come. Yes, it's a future story. Superman is Superman no matter what. And a lot of these characters, very familiar. Wonder Woman's Wonder Woman. To me, I consider Kingdome Come to be the best Superman story.
Yeah, I should have guessed William's definitely going to for this. Is going to bring that up tonight
because the core values of Superman don't change. This is something I can get them in now. If you've been watching a lot of post-apocalyptic stuff, a lot of futuristic stuff, and the type of movies and stuff, you're a Nolan fan, things like that, Zack Snyder fan. If you're those type of movie fans and you're not necessarily all the way into comics, I need to know the tone and tenor of the stuff that you'll read. If you're into those type of movies, if you're into John Carpenter movies, or if you're into, that's your entertainment type of, sometimes music is a key too. I'm not going to give you some cheesy kid story that has Superman in it. That's a fluff story because you're thinking your mindset is different. I'm going to have a conversation with you. That conversation sometimes lasts 5 minutes. Many times with me, I can run my mouth for a long time. I can have a customer here for 2 hours and I'll know what they need, just based on the questions that they've given me. Another type of customer is the ones that, when movies are starting to come out, you're starting to hear buzz about movies. Now we are 6 months away, a little bit less than 6 months away from a Superman movie. And, James Gunn has helped with this. This is the thing where he helps us do our job because he's put out books like Supergirl Worlds of Tomorrow, things like that. So if you're somebody who is paying attention to the stuff in the periphery and you're trying to get excited about something that's coming up, then if the person who's made the movie has listed influences, you can get them that. All right. So now another way you can get a brand new collector in without bankrupting them, because for me, you're always, when I grew up, I had a limited amount of money to spend on these things. And one of the biggest things that will stop a person from collecting anything, no matter what it is, records, collectible, anything, is money. Is how much can I afford to do it? And how can I afford to do it frequently? So if I sell you a $200 comic as a brand new collector, that's probably going to take all your money away for the month. I want you to come back. I want you to come back over the course of years. I want to see you grow up into this stuff. Now, obviously, you're interested in Spider-Man. You think it would be cool to read some of the earlier stuff. Some of the earlier stuff is super expensive. Yes, to answer someone else's question previously, you can get omnibuses. They're not cheap though. Omnibuses, the average price of the omnibus is $70 to $75 and up. I just did a Fantastic Four omnibus for a person, the Hickman one, that was $110, I think. And then shipping and handling, all that stuff. Now, something like this is what I call a facsimile cover. These are cool. This puts an Amazing Spider-Man #1 in the hands of a brand new collector without the $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 price tag on it. Put this in their hand. They get to read Spider-Man's first adventure. Granted, we have hundreds of Spider-Man issues out there, but a lot of people who are brand new, they want to, they missed that ground level. We all did. We weren't around in 1961. These books are super expensive, but it's a cool thing to put in a customer's hand. You're in the Hulk. You saw Hulk on TV. You want to read some of his first adventures, and then you want to decide where you want to go from there. But you don't have the thousands of dollars to get a Hulk #1. Here's a facsimile Hulk #1. And when you open these up, if you look at our site where I've opened these up, the ads from 1962 are there. those big muscle guy ads and, take this pill, you'll be muscle bound guy. That's all there. The letter section is there. Everything that was there when these things got, were when they got reproduced are all there. Amazing Spider-Man 300. Now, I have the original, but mine's signed by McFarlane, so it's not coming in the store. This is a pretty decently expensive comic, but guess what? You got these Venom movies coming out. You're about to have, you may see the black costume again in a future Spider-Man story. You want to see, one of the first appearances of Venom, but you don't have $200-$300 to do it, right? All right. For $7, I get you Amazing Spider-Man 300. All the ads are in there. Now, as you grow into the fandom, as your financial situation increases, you can go out and get your own. But to me, you're not going to make that jump to a $200 or $300 comic from day one. You have to have a doorway to get in. So facsimile covers are some of the things that really helped. Now, for the person who has been away, who has been away, there's things like this, and this would be no surprise what's coming up next. So you're into comics. You were collecting for a while, but you got out because things got too expensive. The storylines are just, it's the same old thing, different writer, different.
Or
artist.
They rebooted, and
they rebooted. They up your continuity, and you just all that money you spent, they just snipped it off to where that meant nothing to you, and you were disengaged. We're gonna go with what's doing.
Oh man, Absolute DC's awesome, guys. If you aren't reading it, you should be.
And not only that, now the thing about and I made sure that I bought mostly reprints up here because you may have missed the boat when this first came out. The supply was not where it would be, and a lot of them have got super expensive. There's a lot of expensive variants of black and white. That should not stop you from getting in because we got third and fourth printings, right? So this one right here I have is a second printing of Absolute Superman #1. It's cover price, right? Most of them that are coming out are cover price. So you can go get this right now. You can go get this for a cheap price. And you've been out of comics. Superman was boring to you. Batman was like, oh my goodness, it's gotten soft. But now they're calling you back. They're giving you these characters in, but they're giving them in a way that's so different that your old collecting days never touched this. They've reinvented these characters and made them new again without rebooting, without blowing everything up. They created a road for you. So now you don't want to come back. You think Dark Detective Comics is still too cheesy. There's the Bat families everywhere. They're just tired of seeing them. Don't want to but you don't need to do that because now you have a stripped down to the bones Batman that's a kick-ass Batman that you can get on the ground level. This is a new beginning for you. Absolute Wonder Woman is excellent. Big Wonder Woman fan, but don't like what I know a lot of people don't like what the current storyline is coming right now, but you've been wanting to get back, but there's been no doorway for you. Absolute Wonder Woman. So for a collector who has been driven away by reboots, continuity, blowing up and all that, these allow you to come back in. And what Scott Snyder is doing with the Absolute line and the All In initiative, he's making those other books, their mainline books, a jumping point. So right now, if you wanted to get back into Justice League Unlimited, it just came out. If you wanted to get back into Superman, they're doing things like this is a beautiful cover, by the way. But here's the All In initiative is covering everything. So they're creating storylines where not only you can come into this brand new universe, but this universe right here is feeding into it. So if you've been away, DC is calling you home.
Yeah, so, they have in my opinion, they have not found a way to miss yet with what they're doing with the Absolute DC. And that's just with the trendy characters. Because we're getting a Flash and Martian Manhunter and Green Lantern in March.
Yeah,
yeah. Those are the next ones because right now it's just been the Trinity, and again it's on a hell of a roll in Absolute DC. And then March they'll be building out. Okay, now it's going to be introducing the Absolute Flash, Green Lantern, and Martian Manhunter. So I am loving what they're doing. It's definitely got my endorsement as if you've been away and you want to like a jumping back in kind of point with DC Comics, Absolute DC is definitely fantastic doorway for that.
Another facsimile that looks really nice. Once again, Fantastic Four is thousands of dollars. We got a Fantastic Four movie coming out. A lot of people are wanting to go, and omnibuses are expensive, and some of the issues, depending on what run you're on, especially the good ones, are expensive. Fantastic Four #1, 1961 First Family. This is Mole Man's on the cover. You open it up, it has the same ads that were in it the day it was released. You could get your hands on this and have a lot of fun with this. Now, once you get something like this and you want to start going and getting these other things, you can. But here's your Because when you come in here, this can be intimidating. There's so much shit around, and in some of the bigger stores, there's so much, you just don't know where to jump in. And a lot of times, it's like a moving train. You don't want to jump in or off of it because you're afraid you might get ran over. You need a safe place to come in. So something like this helps. Now, for those of you who are coming in and are those collectors, people who want, have a little bit more money, not rich, but have a little bit more to spend on you, and you want, like I said before, you have that collector that wants it for collective value and story. Something like this, the Mutant Massacre, these are originals. I just picked these up a few days ago. We've covered this before. This is something that can get you into the X-Men. Yeah, it's in continuity, but it leads to a lot of different things and a lot of aftermath that would put its stamp on X-Men for the next 25 years afterwards. So this is one of those ones that if you were going to pick out something in continuity, the Mutant Massacre, which is from 2000 to X-Men 210 all the way up to X-Men 213 was the four proper. There's other issues that were connected to this. Thor had an issue in this. Daredevil fought Sabretooth in this. So it was the first of Marvel's in-season crossovers. You had Secret Wars and stuff like that, but this was the first time. This was the first X-Men one that they did, and then follow the Mutants to come afterwards, Inferno. But this is where it all started. This is a basic storyline. It's not expensive at all. It's not like, pennies, but it's not. If you're coming in and you're easing your way back into this and you want to make an investment, but if you don't want to blow up your wallet, stories like this are really cool. Self-contained stories like this are really cool. The one I showed before, Wolverine, the 1982 miniseries with Frank Miller and Chris Claremont, that's a good one to get into. Now, when you're going to get back issues, they don't all have to be graded like 9.8 for you. There are some back issues that are going to have a lower grade, but they're older comics, and if you get your hands on those, that's part of your story. So now you've covered your story and you've covered your value too. Because, like I said, not every book that sells is a graded 9.8. There are most of them that sell. Sell for below that, so you can get a value like this. I don't know I don't do the graded stuff as much. I have some here, but something like this that's in really good condition. This comic was released in 1986, so we're talking about almost what 39 whatever years. So yeah, or whatever year, it's old, but yeah, something like this in this condition gets you out of the years. 39, right? Yeah, I was right, 39. And when the 9 messes me up, but something like this, and then you have the Marks of Rescue run that starts after that. Now, if you're still in the ballpark where you're somewhat familiar to these characters, but you just still don't feel like spending 30, 40 bucks, for certain issues, you have Classic X-Men. Classic X-Men for any person who wants to get into X-Men and you're on a budget. Trade paperbacks help. The new stuff helps. But Classic X-Men, not only does Classic X-Men reprint the classic stories that came out and like this would be X-Men 94, right? A Classic X-Men basically starts after Giant Size X-Men number 1. It actually starts in Giant Size X-Men number 1 is very first one, and then it goes from there. Not only does it give you it reprints those classic stories, they add brand new stories on the back end that fit with the original stories that came along with that. So you're getting a reprint that probably costs a couple $100, but you're also getting an added story. And these covers are beautiful. I remember these when I was in school, because as a 12-year-old, I like I said, I didn't have $1.50, and the old man was not dropping $1.50. I was barely able to get $1.50 for a giant size comic, so that wasn't happening. So there's some other stuff that helps you get in. Looking at the wall, there's a lot of stuff now for a lot of people when you're getting in. So if you're one of those value type people, and you want to get something that you think is going to go up, but it's not necessarily a back issue, a lot of variants help. We've already gone over this one, Batman Black and White. These are things like that. When they reprint them, they're lower print runs that can help you out with. Like this Wonder Woman Jim Lee variant. That's something that'll go up a little bit. Don't know how much, can't guarantee that you're not going to hit a mutter load on it, but it's something that you can get while you're getting in on the new stuff that helps you get value and get some story out of it too. Like right now, if you're a brand new collector and you are aware of the Trinity, you got to be buying Absolute and the Justice League Unlimited and all the stuff that's just coming out right now. There's value in it, and damn, the story is good. And things like this, I get a lot of Spider-Man people in that come in and they're young. They're not as they know who Peter Parker is, but it just doesn't relate to them. Miles Morales relates. This is a compilation you get. Now DC has these too, and I'm completely sold out. There's these little mini comics that compress the story. Like at Quarter Value, it compresses a story in there and it makes it a complete story arc. So you don't have to buy a bunch of stuff to be associated with that particular story. Things like this, the little mini ones, and they're dirt cheap. The DC ones are like $10, if that much. You can get a good number of issues in there. Now, that's your way in. If you want to go buy all the books that have the Quarter Vowels in them, if you want to go buy the 13 issues that compile, you can do that. But now you're in. Now you're not in a dark room. You're in, you got some knowledge, you have a desire, and you know what you want. So these things are the first step. The second step has to come from the customer, the potential collector, because now that you've given them this stuff, most important thing is follow-up on both ends. When they come in, your familiar face comes in and you say, hey, I love this. This is good. I was okay. Now I can give you the next logical step. What did you like about it? Because not only can I get you the next block of whatever, if there's other things like, okay, if you like that, I know you're going to like this. Like if you like Frank Miller or anything, I know exactly what to get you. If you come in telling me you love the book that I showed you at the beginning of the Klaus Janson Frank Miller, I think, you know what? Why don't we try out some Batman? Why don't we try out some Dark Knight Returns? Because guess what? Guess who that is? Klaus Janson, Frank Miller. You like the tone of those stories. Okay, let's just try Sin City. I mean, so there's a lot of things that, when they come back, and if they come back and say, you know what, this was too much for me, then you could still sell stuff still. And a lot of times I'll take a trade back. If I sold somebody something like that and it's just not for them and it's seriously not for them, I'll trade it out and say, hey, let's try this. A lot of it is just that conversation between the dealer and the collector. You just got to be able. You have to ask, and you got to listen to them too. You got to, you don't want to put so much on their plate that it scrambles their mind. You want to find out. Now, some people connect quicker than others. Nobody's dumb, but some people grasp it and get the feeling, and you got to be wary of that too. But those are the type of things that I would start people on if they're coming in and they're in those categories. So basically the category is brand new, familiar with the IP, but never picked up a comic, person that's coming back in, and then the person that's familiar with the IP, but just through movies and everything else, has never gotten to the job. That's how I would get them started on there. And then you just go from there.